Welcome back, everyone. For a review of this week's new episode of The Bad Batch, episode 11. My name is Master, and we're to a brand new spoiler review. Please leave a like, guys. That's the best way to support this channel. Really helps the algorithm out. If you want to continue this Bad Batch conversation, let's talk about it in the comment section down below. It's one of your least favorite episodes of the series. And are you excited for the next 5 episodes of the show? Also, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, ringing that bell for notifications to movie reviews, TV show reviews, movie rankings, and a box office breakdown show. My updated schedule of the reviews coming in the next couple of days will be at the end of this video. So I was taken aback by this episode in a good way. It was really the only episode of the series so far where the Bad Batch are not really in the episode at all. They're in actually just one scene, and the scene they're in, they barely talk. It really is Omega's scene with Hera. This episode takes place on Ryloth, where we have the Empire taking over Ryloth. If you know Clone Wars and you know Rebels, Ryloth is the planet of the Syndulas. Again, Hera was one of the main characters of Rebels. Her parents were very much a big part of a couple subplots in Clone Wars, and they are back in this episode. The Syndulas are back in the episode as they're battling with the Empire, deciding, is this peace? If the Empire is taking over your place, is that peace? Because they have clones now controlling everything, and who to trust on all of this. Is the Senator, clearly, even if you know this from Clone Wars, never a liked person by anyone. But then Cham Syndulla, who's the father of Hera, he is the one that we know from Clone Wars is the most well-respected person in Ryloth, and he believes in the Empire coming here is peace for everyone. There's no more fighting. They hand over all of their weapons. But as this is happening, there are a couple people in Ryloth who are not very happy about this, and they are on their own expedition, including young Hera Syndulla and Chopper are in this episode. It was actually, I had some goosebumps seeing Hera and Chopper in the show. Again, we got Kanan in episode 1 of the Bad Batch, and now we get Hera. So a couple loose ends with Rebels now coming back into the fray this episode. It was so cool to see Hera and Chopper in the episode. Hera's doing some stuff. She gets taken aback by the clones, and then Cham says, you can't do this anymore. She goes on to fly with a couple of the people to look for more things, to acquire weapons, and we learn that these people are getting their weapons from the Bad Batch who were sent by Sid. Now, I did think this was interesting that Sid is now sending them on stuff, because last week we knew Omega paid off Sid's death. So I believe that that was going to be the end of Sid for the show, in my opinion. Now, obviously, Sid was not in the episode, but the Bad Batch said they were sent by Sid. So I don't know why they would still be working for Sid if they've already paid off their debt. I hope that gets kind of furnished out in the next episode. Why are they still working for Sid? And did they actually pay off the complete debt, as explained last week? But as this is happening, Hera goes off, and again, she knew she's the best pilot in the Star Wars Rebels TV show. She is the pilot for that group. And we learned that she's just always wanted to fly here as a kid. That's basically her dream. And Omega lives in the ship. And then that is something that Hera, that was the best part of this episode. This Hera and Omega conversation on the Bad Batch ship about flying, about how Omega has her own room on the ship, and how Hera just adores the life that Omega is living. Even though it's dangerous, she wants to fly, she wants to be on a ship at all times. And that dynamic really came through in a very strong way. So after Omega and Hera's conversation is done, that is it for the Bad Batch characters this episode. The Bad Batch go off. Hunter maybe says a line, maybe Tech says a line, but other than that, the Bad Batch are nothing in this episode. They get one quick, really cameo scene. It feels like a Clone Wars subplot episode, and the Bad Batch just happened to be in it for an episode, but it's actually, they're not the main characters of their own episode, which is really, I thought, a good thing for the show. A surprise, actually, a pleasant surprise. So we kept going. The Empire catches up to, as now the Syndulas are now back. Cham says, we got to go after these Empire guys now. They're not really helping us out. And that was a great little twist there, but they realized that Crosshair shoots the Senator, which makes it look like the Syndulas were attempting murder on the Senator. So now they are taken in, and that's how the episode ends. It was actually, I know I don't break down this too deeply because they're only 22 to 25 minutes long. I still had a lot of fun with this episode. I actually loved that we were away from the Bad Batch and seeing the Syndulas, and really they're nailing the transition of power amazingly in the show. Transitioning from Revenge of the Sith, we had the Republic and the Separatists and all these other people, and now heading into really the complete Empire. And the fact that some of these clones were the ones saving and protecting these citizens' lives, but because of Order 66, now they are villains and not doing that and just protecting people from the Empire, and the idea of who to trust and what these people symbolized in the past era and now what they're symbolizing in the new era, in the idea of people moving on from generation to generation, how each generation has been affected by this transition of power in the galaxy. It's a really interesting story that I'm loving. The show continues to dabble in, and this one, it certainly does. Crosshair almost got a glimpse of the Bad Batch and Crosshair in the same episode, nothing to do with each other, which I thought was a really interesting thing as well. So I actually wonder if they continue this storyline, because they set up the ending that the Syndulas are going into prison for the attempted assassination of the senator of Ryloth. So our question is, what will happen next week? Do the Bad Batch come back to save the Syndulas this time? Or do we just get a fully Syndulla episode on Ryloth? It's a really interesting point of view. What happens next? Even though this wasn't, again, main story, this is one of the probably my favorite filler episode of the season so far. Has the characters that you're familiar with, characters you're not familiar with, and the idea, the underburning political subtext of the Empire now taking over the galaxy and what that means for citizens, senators, and just high-powered people. I think it's a really interesting perspective. So that's my thoughts on this past week's episode of The Bad Batch. If you like this review so far, like the video, comment down below. Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? What do you think is going to happen next week's episode? Subscribe and ring the bell, guys. Review coming tomorrow for Fear Street Part 2. That's coming out tomorrow, Saturday. And I'm back on Monday. My box office breakdown show will be out. And once again, this time next week, my episode 12 spoiler review of The Bad Batch will be out. So please consider subscribing and ringing that